All right, let's take a look at section 3. Here is our focus question. Dreams of post war prosperity united New Dealers and conservatives in business and labor, and they were promoted by two of the most famous roadmaps for the post war world. The American Century, published by the magazine magnate Henry Luce in 1941 to mobilize Americans for an imminent war, asked Americans to prepare to become the dominant power in the world and distribute to all peoples America's magnificent industrial products and great American ideals, particularly their love of freedom. Luce believed that American power and values would secure unprecedented prosperity and abundance, all created by free economic enterprise. The idea that America had a mission to spread democracy and freedom had its origins in the American Revolution, but this ideal traditionally saw America as an example to be emulated, not an active agent imposing an American system on others. To some critics on the left, Luce's appeal seemed to be a call for American empire. Henry Wallace, a liberal New Dealer, former Secretary of Agriculture for FDR and FDR's vice president beginning in 1940, responded with the price of free world victory, an address in May 1942. Wallace anticipated that Allied victory would establish a century of the common man and that the march of freedom would continue after the conflict. He argued the globe would be governed by international cooperation, not any single power, and that governments would humanize capitalism and redistribute economic resources to end hunger, illiteracy, and poverty. Luce and Wallace defined freedom differently. Luce envisioned a world of free enterprise, while Wallace sought a global New Deal. But they also both believed America should intervene in the world by spreading abundance and posing as a model to other nations, and they ignored other nations' visions of the post-war world. While Congress dismantled parts of the New Deal, liberal Democrats and their left-wing allies planned for a post-war economy that would enable all Americans to enjoy freedom from want. In 1942 and 1943, the National Resources Planning Board, the NRPB, outlined a peacetime economy based on full employment, a larger welfare state, and an American standard of living. Emphasizing economic security and full employment, the NRPB called for a new Bill of Rights that would include all Americans in Social Security and guarantee education, health care, adequate housing, and employment. Liberal New Dealers, labor, farmer, and civil rights groups, and churches welcomed the NRPB's plan, whose promise of full employment and fair income distribution seemed to one liberal magazine to represent the way of life of free men. The report showed that liberals were moving away from trying to reform capitalism to attaining full employment, social welfare, and mass consumption with little direct government intervention in the economy. They were influenced by John Maynard Keynes, who argued that government spending was the best way to foster economic growth. Although war production had ended the Depression in a kind of military Keynesianism, the NPRB proposed a continuation of Keynesianism in the post-war period. But an increasingly conservative Congress opposed the NRPB plan and cut the agency's funding. In 1944, FDR, who knew that most Americans wanted a guarantee of employment after the war, called for an economic Bill of Rights. While the original Bill of Rights limited government power to secure liberty, this one expanded government power to secure full employment, a minimum income, medical care, education, and decent housing for all Americans. FDR declared that true individual freedom cannot exist without economic security and independence. But his replacement of Vice President Henry Wallace with Harry Truman of Missouri suggested that he did not want to confront Congress over social policy, and Congress never enacted the Economic Bill of Rights. In 1944, Congress did enact the Servicemen's Readjustment Act, or the GI Bill of Rights, which extended to millions of returning veterans benefits such as unemployment, educational scholarships, low-cost mortgages, pensions, and job training. The GI Bill greatly shaped post-war America and was one of the most far-reaching pieces of social legislation in American history. It prevented post-war economic disruptions and sparked a boom in education and housing, which led to massive suburbanization. But Congress went no further. A proposed full employment bill that would have been a GI Bill for non-veterans, guaranteeing employment and requiring the federal government to increase spending if the economy itself did not produce full employment, was watered down before it passed in 1946 and did not require full employment. The bill's failure confirmed the political stalemate initiated in the 1938 elections and marked the return of respectability for the idea that economic planning endangered freedom. In 1944, Friedrich A. Hayek, an Austrian-born economist, published The Road to Serfdom, in which he argued that government planning threatens individual liberty and leads to dictatorship. When war production seemed to have restored capitalism and fascism showed the dangers of combining economic and political power, Hayek's book gave a new justification to opponents of the activist state. Hayek claimed that no person or set of experts could ever know enough to intelligently direct a complex modern economy, and that the free market's scattered and partial knowledge more effectively ran economic life. While Hayek accepted some social policies, such as a minimum wage and maximum hour laws and a social safety net that guaranteed minimal citizen welfare and opposed traditional conservatives' love of authority, he helped establish modern conservatism by equating fascism, socialism, and the New Deal, and associating economic planning with the loss of freedom. So that's our third section. We'll be back with the fourth next time.